Hi, everybody. Welcome to the St. Pete Soul podcast. Thanks for tuning in. And today I'm excited to have the two fabulous owners of Churned Ice Cream, Ray and Alyssa. Thanks so much for joining me. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having us.
And I mentioned this when we got started, but that picture behind you is so cool. So I love the fact that it's like, that's the backdrop. If you've got
We've got a lot of those pictures, She is our soul, she is our everything. So it's kind of like a child.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, yeah. So start off and just tell everybody a little bit about yourselves, just so we can have some backstory.
Well, long story short, we have been together
22 years.
Right.
It's funny when you say it.
Congrats.
Thank you. We met in Australia in 2000. I was studying abroad and Ray was working as a chef up the coast. And basically the rest is history. And he moved to Minnesota for several years after, of course, getting him into the country.
Several years. It's like 10 years, of which 5 of those were winter, I think.
Oh, God.
Out of all the people he could have met, of course, he met someone from Minnesota, poor guy. But we quickly recognized that, and we kind of created a new plan. And we didn't want to work in our corporate jobs anymore. So we packed up everything, sold our house, sold everything within it. And that's when we ended up taking the journey in this girl, Diva, the bus. And we went, gosh, in 2011. Yes. We went a long way.
Yeah.
So we basically traveled the world. We went 3 continents in the bus. We came back and then decided we wanted something else.
Well, that's consolidating 22 years into a very short amount of time.
I think you did a pretty good job at that.
We could go on and on, but basically we were running resorts around the world before we came back to Minnesota, and then hopped back in the Diva, the bus, and then traveled down to Florida. And we've been here for just over a year.
Wow. So I cannot like glaze past the fact that you said you went to 3 continents. Is that right?
Yeah, so we didn't really know the plan when we hit the road. We just knew that we needed to travel and we didn't know how far for how long. It ended up actually being about a decade we were gone, because travel led into work. So we initially hit the road. We were heading from Minnesota to California, but not really knowing how we're going to get there. And after a few hiccups, and I mean 2 new engines, we finally made it to California. and then we threw the bus onto a cargo ship, and she made her way over to England.
Wow.
So after all that, it was about almost 2 months of clearance and getting all the paperwork in England ready. And then as soon as we got her on the road, and we headed down through Europe, and then spent about almost 2 years living in Europe in the bus and working around Europe before we actually left her in England and got a job in Tanzania. So she had a little bit of a break while we were in Tanzania.
Wow. Okay.
But I guess the bus has always been kind of our transition. So it always kind of leads us to our next adventure, whether we know it or not. And I think that's just what's been so surprising and kind of exciting. So it's always been a part of the experience, a part of the journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
She is now.
So what types of jobs were you doing? You said resorts?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I've been a chef all my life. So I started my chef career at the age of 15. I actually went to culinary school at 15 and started working in a hotel at the same time. And that's a long time ago. So yeah, I've been a chef in 8 different countries now, and I've worked countless jobs.
That's cool.
And then it just kind of meshed well, because I was always working in hospitality, and I had previously, before we went across seas, I was working for a travel company and kind of knew my way around resorts. I would have to do site inspections. So I had an idea of what obviously customers, clients wanted. And so we had our first job in Kenya. I was the resort manager and Ray was the executive chef. And that's just kind of what we ended up doing around the world. We worked in Tanzania, Kenya, Spain, and Myanmar, doing and having that role.
Very, very cool. So like the word cultured comes to mind. I mean, that's just like, you can't get any more cultured than what y'all are doing.
It's it's hard enough to be accountable and responsible for employees when you're, you know, in your own country with your own culture, but then having to come into a completely new environment with a new culture and a different set of, well, rules altogether. We had to kind of quickly figure that out first before we even went to be a part
You
of it.
have to learn a whole new set of management skills. So whatever you've learned, say, for example, as a chef in 15, 16 years before I hit, you know, the culture circuit, the Kenya, Tanzania areas, you have to regroup and know that you can't treat a completely different culture the way you would be treating employees in your own environment, because, you know, it just doesn't carry across. So you first of all have to learn how they react to training and discipline and compliments, and then only then can you start working to help them learn, you know, the way you want them to learn. So it's a whole different way of learning for me. It just took me by surprise, but it was very, very good for me to find out how to, you know, redo my management style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and then you can just carry those skills with you for the rest of your life. I mean, anyone that you meet that ends up working with you or new relationships, you know how to, you know, those people skills, you know, they carry over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You learn how to read the situation very carefully. And I think that's how you kind of gain the respect with the people around you. And it was just every place we went to, we thought it can't get harder than this. Like this is crazy hard. No way. I mean, anything is going to be easier than this. And then every resort Burma was probably the most complicated because we helped build this luxury resort on an island, you know, from ground up, like literally putting tape on the sand as to where these beautiful villas were going to go, and hiring the staff and teaching them what it is to maintain a personal space just with guests, like starting from scratch. And so I think everything kind of probably led to this moment.
In Burma, that was interesting because in Kenya, it was a fully fledged lodge. All the staff had already been working there for a long time, so they knew what hospitality was. Whereas in Burma, we had a handful of trained hospitality staff, all Burmese, but then the rest of the staff, for example, the groundskeepers and the drivers, the boatmen, they were all locals, either from local villages or fishing islands or from the coast of Myanmar, and they've never worked in hospitality. So you also had to not only train them the job that they needed to do, but how to react to foreigners when they see them, you know, what to do and what not to do. So that was also another area that we never really thought about until we had to do it.
Wow. Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I feel like we could just spend hours and hours talking about all of your experiences in different countries. So, okay. So then all of that, how do you get down to the Tampa Bay area?
Well, I tell this story a lot at Corey Avenue, because Corey Avenue, where we are every single Sunday, is kind of what is the singular most important piece of the story. But as I was telling you before, when we were driving, this is the picture when we were driving the bus from Minnesota to Florida, and we literally were doing it in a way where we would stop places and say, is this home? Is this home? Does this feel like home? And if it got any colder than 40 degrees in the winter, we're like, this is not home.
We had a rough idea that we wanted to start an ice cream business. We didn't know how, in what format. And we also knew that wherever we went and traveled to during that 3-month journey, we had to think about starting a business, and was that area right for us? And we looked from everywhere, from, you know, Maryland to North Carolina to Virginia, everywhere on the way that we went.
And then we got down to Gulf Boulevard up by Clearwater, and we were driving the bus all the way down, and we happened to come across Corey Avenue. And so we just decided to stop, and we walked through the market. And again, like Ray said, we already had these visions of starting an ice cream business and knowing that it would probably start in markets. And we just kind of thought, this is where we want to be. I mean, I think it just all clicked. And here we are, almost 7 months or so later.
Yeah.
So our first market at Corey was the end of April.
Sorry.
Yeah, end of April last year.
Feels a lot longer.
It really does. But it just those things where we, you know, you just, I think, you know, when you know, and for us to finally be able to pick where we wanted to be, it wasn't work that took us there. You know, it was somewhere that we felt most at home, most connected. is supported by other locals and other local
We
businesses.
had no idea that St. Petersburg was as supportive with local
No.
businesses as it is. And it's just
Yeah.
been a blessing to be like landed in this community, you know, with all of the local businesses that, you know, and also the people that help the local businesses by running stuff like Localtopia and Shopapalooza and Keepsake Pink Local, that type of thing, you know, is just a benefit for us. It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I started the podcast, just celebrating small business here, because it's very unique, and it makes St. Pete so special. And I think, like, what, to your point of, like, when you got here, you just felt like it was home. You just have that, you know when you know, and it just, St. Pete's so special in that way, because that's how my husband and I feel about St. Pete. So
Yeah.
It was an interesting process because when we found that we wanted to be around this area, we didn't really know St. Petersburg that well. Then we had to figure out, okay, how do we find somewhere to live? And, you know, we started looking in Tampa, and we looked at 9 properties in Tampa, and couldn't really afford anything. And then someone put us onto this house over here where we're staying now, in the middle of everything. It's literally 15 minutes from the beach, 15 minutes from Gulfport, 15 minutes from downtown. You couldn't be better. And I gotta say, we got really lucky by finding this area. I mean,
Yeah.
we weren't even considering this area until it happened to fall up in our lap.
It all kind of just lined up.
Mhm.
And we are so, I mean, we just thought, well, we'll just try this out and see if this works. And now I never want to leave this area. So
nice. So where'd the idea come from for the ice cream company? Like, where is that? Obviously, I know you have a chef background, but, like, what's that passion coming from?
As you'll probably hear from a lot of other businesses that started in the last 2 years, it came because of the pandemic. So our job in Myanmar ended short because of, you know, closing the borders and stuff like that. And then we kind of knew that we wouldn't be back into resorts or restaurants until the pandemic was sorted out or
I think we
alleviated.
really didn't want to.
And I think
we
we're
were
at
done.
the point there after, you know, doing high-end resorts for so long that we're just like, okay, what would be our next business venture? What can we do next?
And we wanted something that was, I mean, obviously this is not easy, but something that we could do, be proud of doing, be successful at it, but also have fun, you know. And I think it was when we finally got out of Burma and we were kind of stuck in England for 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Yeah.
And it was completely closed down, but you could still walk down the boardwalk, you know, in safety distances, and there's still ice cream trucks. And it was just, all I could do but smile, because all these people, it was just a line of people just wanting ice cream, just doing something that was familiar.
All restaurants were closed, all bars were closed, all public venues were closed, but ice cream trucks were allowed to be on the streets because they were open air. And that was really the only way people could get any treats was the ice cream truck.
So we figured this might be it. This is our idea. He could still be creative with, you know, his culinary background and chef, and I could do still my people thing, my hospitality thing, my sales and marketing, and maybe it's something that we could do, you know, together and make it happen. And so far, so good. So.
Yeah. Well, I've tasted your ice cream and it's fabulous, so I can vouch for that.
Thank you.
My biggest problem as a chef is I always make too many flavors, and then people come back and say, "Do you still have that lemon cheesecake?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I've changed that 7 times now."
It's absolutely insane with flavors.
Yeah. Well, that's a typical chef thing right there. You get excited and want to try all these different things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I was gonna say, like, I'm not a huge ice cream person. That's just kind of never been me, and it's really, really good. So kudos.
Thank you.
You can taste the love.
Yes. It's a little bit different. And, you know, the process of what we use, the machine that we use, it's very complicated, but it shows in the flavor, the texture. You know, you could probably talk a little bit more about what goes into it.
It's a very limited, normally the machine we use is something called a Pacojet, and it isn't normally used for commercial ice cream production because you can literally only make 2 pints at a time.
Okay.
That's 4 of those little small containers we have at the market. So normally we have 125 of those in our freezer just for a general day. So we do stuff like Localtopia, we have to have 350, 400 of those. And doing only 2 pints at a time is quite consuming as far as time
Wow.
goes.
Okay. So it's like when you say handcrafted, handmade, it's very much so the
It
case.
is hand-packed, handcrafted, handmade. You know, there's no preservatives, no additives. I mean, it's just the true natural good stuff. It's like just
The most unique thing, and the reason we choose to use this complicated system, is because when you buy commercially produced ice cream, they use big machines, but they also create something called overrun, and it adds air and it adds ice crystals. So you're paying for anywhere between 30 to 50% air and ice.
Oh,
That's a good profit margin. So when you take ice cream out of the freezer and it's commercially made, you can usually probably scoop it almost instantaneously because of the amount of air in it. Ours is going to be a little bit more difficult because we add 0 to 5% air. So you're getting a lot more product. And the process we use is reversed. So normally you pour a custard into a machine and then it slowly churns it around a cold barrel, and eventually you have ice cream. Well, we don't do that process. We freeze the custard solid in a block, and then we put it on the machine, and in 3 minutes, there's a microblade that turns it into a very smooth ice cream paste. So that's why there's no air in our product.
wow. That's super interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really know anything about making ice cream, so I didn't know all of that. Talk about the flavors. Like, where does that inspiration come from? And like how often do you try to like change those up with your menu?
The menu always has mainstays. So we always have to have a regular vanilla. We do a Belgian chocolate, which is super rich, made with a nice high quality Belgian chocolate. And then we have one nut product, butter pecan, peanut. So those are the 3 mainstays. Everything else is changing almost weekly. And we also have a vegan option or a dairy-free option that changes almost every week as well. So really the inspiration is basically the same process as when you're creating a dish in a restaurant as a chef. You look at a picture or you play on flavors that you had remembered as a kid. Like I used to love the powdered packet mixed with milk lemon cheesecake. As a kid, you just mix it with milk, you put it in the dish, it sets because there's a load of gelatin in it or something. I don't know what it was, but it was delicious.
Yeah.
I have to make a lemon cheesecake ice cream maybe once in a while because it reminds me of my childhood. And then other flavors which are a lot more different. We were doing flavors like the Elvis on a diet. Elvis on a diet came because my dad loves Elvis, and he used to love peanut butter sandwiches and bacon that were fried. That's Elvis's favorite sandwich. So we did a French toast ice cream with caramelized bananas, but no bacon. That's why it was called Elvis on a diet.
Oh, wow. Okay, that sounds really good.
Yeah, so it's
really
just
good.
playing off of fun ideas. If you're at the farmer's market, yesterday we picked up an entire flat of beautiful Florida strawberries, which are going to be turned into a vegan strawberry ice cream with a citrus strawberry compote stirred into it. It's really just anything you find and you can play around with, just fun ideas and inspiration from anywhere you see it.
And then the greatest thing too is that we customize ice cream. So if there's a customer that wants to do something completely crazy or just, something that reminds them of their childhood too, we can do that. So what was some of the crazy flavors? Sour Patch Kids?
Sour Patch and lemon curd. That was one of them. Yeah.
That is interesting.
Suck her up indeed. But it's really fun that we're able to do that because of his background, and then obviously the machine that we have as well. There's someone that comes to us every other week. He loves golden Oreos.
Mm-hmm.
And
then he always gets a new flavor like cookie dough, or he'll try something different. He had a golden Oreo, white chocolate and crushed M&M one made for him. So yeah, whatever they can think of, I can make.
Whatever you can dream up, we can do it.
So what's the turnaround time for those kind of special orders like that typically?
Yeah, it all depends on like how busy we are in the week, but usually we can, it takes 2 whole days from start to finish to make the ice cream. So you make the custard from scratch, you chill the custard, you flavor it or you freeze it with the beaker or whatever flavor, and you have to freeze it for 24 hours. So it goes down to minus 22 Celsius. Then you can put it on the machine. Once it's on the machine, you take it off, you put it back in the freezer so it chills to firm up. Then you scoop it into the containers and label it. So that whole process from start to finish is a 2-day project.
Wow.
So if we're not busy, 2 days. If we are busy, a lot longer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what's the weirdest, craziest flavor that you've done before that you could think of?
The weirdest one was
Oh,
we did a private event for Chick-fil-A down on Gulf Boulevard, and they wanted a fun custom flavor that would just be whimsical, just for fun.
Yeah.
So I did a Chick-fil-A ice cream, which is basically a play off of their sauce. So it was like a habanero mango barbecue sauce with turmeric and then crushed pretzels on top. And it was a little savory, a little sweet, but it was just a fun, play on their sauce. And we didn't expect them to actually enjoy it, but they did. So.
And then it's really fun because for weddings, people are creating their own flavors, and we're able to, we do lids for all our cups. And so we can do like their special lids. And so for the next wedding we're doing, they want it named after Bella, their dog. And we're making, I think, a confetti cake.
Confetti cake for that one. We've also got another private wedding where they want chocolate ice cream with toasted marshmallows and almost like a rocky road that they like.
So like what do you think the breakout of the business is? Is it mostly at markets with like, walk up traffic versus like doing a custom cake or a wedding, like what does that look like typically?
Yeah, I think it's step by step, because initially markets are for marketing in our eyes. Of course, Corey Avenue is our favorite market. We get great foot traffic and it's, in a great location, but other markets is basically just introducing ourselves, getting the name out there and introducing people to the product so they can see what the difference is. And then from that stage, doing the markets, we've been able to get into retail. So we work with a fantastic store in Safety Harbor called The Tides with a lot of luxury products. We have our own freezer in there. They've been nice enough to allow us to use an entire freezer for our ice cream. And every week, it's amazing and they're great. And every week we restock that with our flavors, and we usually add one new flavor every week just to keep it interesting. We also do ice cream down at a really great cookie shop called Baked in the Berg, which is amazing. Amazing deep dish cookies and homemade cakes. And then we have an ice cream freezer there as well. And then the next biggest thing we do is puppy ice cream. We're at 5 locations with puppy ice cream.
That is just completely taken in their own way. And it's bacon, pumpkin, and peanut butter. And so the difference with ours is obviously it's very natural, and the dogs are going to love it because it's restaurant quality grade bacon, but it's frozen like the ice cream, so they can only lick it.
Yeah.
And so it keeps them busy. So people love to go grab a half pint before they're going to brunch or a brewery or, anywhere. And the dog is, maybe 30 to 45 minutes at some point.
Unless they're a big dog, then they can just chew it out of the container.
So that's what I would do. He would just he'd eat the container and everything. It's
okay, it's compostable. It's okay.
I didn't know you did pup cups. That's just amazing.
In fact, we're going to a big festival in Gulfport this Saturday called Pet Rescue. And so we're just, half of our ice cream cart is just going to be dog ice cream, the puppy pints.
That's great. It's such a pet friendly area here. So I'm not surprised to hear that that's like done really well.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool to hear that you have some space in retail stores. That's a big like next step there. Is that something that you would love to grow in, or do you just love really the kind of one-on-one interaction with customers with markets?
We feel like we have enough of that between the one-on-one with Corey and then with the festivals and weddings that we do. So we're going to scale back on any other markets or smaller events we do and try now to go more towards retail. We just feel like that's just it's been a huge hit, and it's been so successful, like Ray was telling you, at the Tides and Safety Harbor, and a little bit more consistent. Whereas festivals and markets, you just never know what kind of day it's going to be. So sometimes you could look at a crystal ball and know how many popsicles or popsicreams or ice cream should I bring to this one event? What's going to be more popular? So it's nice just to have that consistency, be able to understand the clientele coming in, identify what their needs are. And even at the Tides, sometimes their customers will come in and ask John, the owner, hey, do you think they could make a vegan lemon curd? And so it's great. So we can get that feedback and make sure that we're stocking it the right way.
Very cool.
Go good for the locals because, you know, a lot of the markets they don't go to, they've been to them many times. They don't want to go to a Corey Avenue market when it's full of people or it's too hot. So having it in a retail store where it's close to their location, they can just pop in and grab a pint whenever they want. They won't have to wait for a specific day. So hopefully we can get into 1 or 2 more retails in different areas to make it easy for people to access the ice cream.
Yeah. The other thing I thought about, have you had any experience with like local restaurants purchasing the ice cream to use for their own desserts or anything like that?
In the beginning, we were approached, and I think the tough sell is it's quite a high-end product. So the restaurant itself would have to be high-end to be able to charge the price they need to sell the ice cream itself. And if they're that high of a restaurant, they're probably making their product themselves already anyway.
True.
So I didn't explore that avenue anymore because I know restaurants pretty well. So I thought that retail would be better for me. Yeah,
that makes sense. Very cool. So I want you to talk about the super fun van in the photo behind you. Like, you know, I know I saw you guys at the market, so I got to see a little bit of it. Like, talk about like, you know, the process of like building that out, and it's so fun.
It's okay. So here's the spiel we give at the market. Her name's Diva because she's high maintenance. She's a 1971 Volkswagen camper. She's been on 3 continents. I've driven her probably 118,000 miles. She's on her 5th engine, and no, she's not for sale.
Yes, I'm sure you've had plenty of people want to buy her.
Yeah, so when we got Diva, initially her real name was Dreammaker, which is her license plate. So that changed pretty quick after a few breakdowns. But we got her from
it became Dream Destroyer.
Yeah. We got her from Washington State, and she was rescued from a swamp area. So she was in pretty bad shape when we got her. So all in all, it was about a 2-year process, front to back, ripping out the entire interior, derusting, repainting, redoing all of the underside, and then of course replacing the engine and all the parts that go with that before we were even able to hit the road.
And just to again restate, like this was back in the day before there was any sort of van life, before people were doing any sort of.
I think it was before hashtag.
I'm pretty sure. Like, so you know, we were just doing this completely on our own, on just knowing that our goal was to drive that bus to California and ship it over to England. Like that's all, those were our blinders. And we didn't really quite realize that we were also working under a VW bus that, you know, has a tendency to break down and have its quirks and its diva moments. And
so we're running the original size engine. So what that means for travel is you can't really go higher than 55 miles an hour.
Okay.
So also, you can't go on any freeways ever. So a drive from Minnesota to California is a lot longer when you can't go on any freeways.
Yeah. That's like, that makes me think about when we moved down here and had to, you know, drive the U-Haul, and those things barely go 65, and you're just like, this is taking forever.
At least they're big though. We're tiny, and people would come up on us at 75, 80 miles an hour and don't realize we're still 30 miles an hour under them, so they have to swerve around us pretty quick.
Oh my gosh.
There's only one time we accidentally went on the freeway, and it wasn't just a freeway, it was the Autobahn in Germany. So that yeah.
Oh my God. Well, like, yeah, how quickly can you get off? How many exits are on that? It's not
about 12 miles.
Yeah, the exits aren't like what we have here, unfortunately.
Yeah. So what were you just like, in the right lane? Like,
even all the semis were going around us. They were doing, God knows, 80 miles an hour, who knows, and we're doing 50, 55 going,
And you also have a very relaxed person. I mean, I am not, so that is why he's the driver of the bus. But there's been times where we are in the mountains in Spain and the brakes went out.
They didn't go out. They overheated, and when they overheat, they turn into what they call sponge brakes. So they've got no traction, so you just can't you can't brake. And in Spain, where we were going from the high altitude mountains down to the coast, so it was all downhill. So I just slowly reached over, grabbed the handbrake, put my foot on the dashboard, and pulled the handbrake. She's like, "Is anything wrong?" I'm like, "No, it's fine."
We're good. Don't worry.
Yeah, you have to have that yin and yang, I guess.
Wow. So how have you like incorporated diva into now the business? Because obviously you had her before you started the ice cream business. So
And that's such a great question, because really, honestly, like, she was not anything to do with the business. That wasn't in the plan. That wasn't anything that we thought about. We were going to get an ice cream truck. We were thinking about other different ways to have that happen. And then we just realized we have the best thing right here in front of us. Why don't we just incorporate the bus with the ice cream and really make a happy experience for everybody? Because we know that driving around in the bus, how many smiles we can create. And this is just, just the whole thing.
Yeah, the inside is so cool, just like little quirkiness, and I feel like bringing in the charm of like what year was it? Did you say
71?
Okay,
71.
yes, you're bringing in the charm of like the 70s with it. It's very cool.
Yeah, I'm just actually kicking myself that I didn't even think about using the van until it was after the fact.
I mean, if that's the way.
Because it was just our home, I was like, oh, we can't use that. It's our home. And then all of a sudden, I can't afford an ice cream van. I need to use this one.
Well, it's a much cooler ice cream van. That is for sure.
Yeah.
It is fun.
No.
It just kind of worked its way into it, as she always seems to do, and just another part of the day.
So how have you seen? We've talked about this some, but like, how have you seen your business grow? Like, anything else besides, you mentioned the retail stores, which is so cool. Maybe like brand awareness and visibility. Like, how have you seen that grow in the last like almost year?
I think the biggest growth for me personally, and it's not necessarily about getting the product out, it's more of how we make the product and how we can make that efficiently at home or in the commercial kitchen and store it in our freezers. Because now we have 4 freezers for storage. That's how much we're making. So doing that slow process that we talked about had to be very efficient. So learning that new process for me is how we've evolved and being able to produce as much as we do. And then as far as getting it out there, that's mostly Alyssa. So she does all of the marketing. I don't even have an Instagram account. So she does all that brand awareness.
I think it's about adapting, evolving, figuring out what's working. And if it's not, try something new. And we recently just brought out, when it was kind of over that little cool time in January and beginning of February, we were constantly feeling like we're having to defend that it was still okay to eat ice cream, even if it was, 60 degrees. So something new to kind of, and it worked. We called it a popsicle, and we used our popsicle molds, but we put our custard, or vanilla custard, in the mold. So we basically made, vanilla, ice cream sticks, and then we dipped it in milk chocolate. And just the fact that it was something that they could walk around with, I don't know, it just made them feel differently about an actual ice cream. So that took off, and now it's a part of our menu.
Well, in the beginning, all we did was ice cream. All of a sudden we realized how many dogs there were. So we started doing the puppy ice cream, and that became a hit. Then it became too hot for ice cream. So we started doing popsicles, which are all fruit-based.
Yep.
Then it became too cold for ice cream. So we're doing the popsicle creams. So evolution is just natural as far as this processing is going right now.
Yeah. Well, like you said, adapting, just trying to like figure it out.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's also sometimes overwhelming in the best way possible of how much is going on at all time in St. Pete. As there's always something to be a part of. There's always something to do. And so just trying to weed out what we think is going to be the best fit for our ice cream, the best event, that's been hard. We've picked not so great things, and then we picked some incredible successful events. So I think it's just also figuring out what works for us, but you just have to try everything first.
Yeah. So what's your favorite thing about having this business?
That it's ours.
Yeah.
Yep. Especially after you've worked for other people for so long.
Yes.
You got no one else to blame but yourself if you fail, and you're accountable for everything you do. So it's just us two. So it's not just making the ice cream, it's all of the ordering, all of the shopping, all of the arranging of the markets, all of the accounting. So, it's a lot of pressure, but it's still yours, and it's your pressure to take. So I think, yeah, working for ourselves, even though it can be a bit stressful sometimes, it's different than being stressed because of someone else's pressure.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's what most people I hear say about like the why behind they started a business, or like the exciting part about it is that it is yours and you can do whatever you want with it. But and that also means that, you know, it's limitless. It's whatever you dream it to be.
Yeah.
Right.
And you could also change stuff. If something's not working, then it's up to you to recognize that and then change it accordingly. So sometimes when you work for other people that don't have that vision or the nerves to change something, that's why the business fails. So we're able to change stuff when we see it failing quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
What would you say like your why, like, you know, kind of that deep passion that gets you up every day to keep working on this business?
I think just the amount of growth that we've seen since we started, and the recognition and the praise, and the fact that I need to make another 50 flavors and I can't get them out enough. You know, I don't know. It's just it's not even a question. It's just we're excited to do it. We're excited to, you know, do all the pre-work in the kitchen, and then the exciting part, same as when you work a restaurant, you work in the kitchen. The exciting part is getting that food finally on the plate for a customer to enjoy. So that's the fun part, is getting it all packaged, getting it all labeled, and then watching someone actually enjoy your product in front of you and say it's good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just being a part of something, you know, it's especially at the markets or other events that we do, it's just basically we're just next to our coworkers in a way, you know, so everyone's kind of going through basically the same struggles, or, you know, the best moments, and we get to share it all. One of my girlfriends yesterday, we were at the Madeira market and she got her small business loan, you know, and so being able to celebrate that and know that that was going to take her further, and all being there together. I mean, I think I've always loved to be a part of something good. And I think being here and being a local business person in St. Pete, you can't not be a part of something good. So it's been pretty special.
That's cool. Yeah, I know we talked about that earlier. Just the small business community here is really special. So yeah. So
All
what's
striving for the same goal.
sorry, say that again.
We're all striving for the same goal: recognition and success.
Exactly. So what would you each say is your absolute favorite flavor? Like if you're gonna have some ice cream, what are each of your flavors? Your go-tos?
Well, mine is, and this is the truth. Mine is our vanilla bean. Like, I absolutely love it. And I think if you can't make a good vanilla, you know, which is the base of everything, you know, of all the other flavors, but it's absolutely my favorite.
I don't think I've tasted my favorite yet.
God.
So far, it will still be the lemon cheesecake, but I'm really looking for some rhubarb somewhere. I want to do a rhubarb crumble custard ice
Where
cream.
to find rhubarb.
Okay. Yeah. So that just gives you the excuse to just keep trying. So you can just keep. Eventually, you'll find that favorite flavor.
Exactly.
Well, I meant to ask this earlier when like we were talking about kind of getting the business started. How did you come up with like the logo and design?
The logo's changed. So the original logo is this. We wanted something that was simplistic, and we're not allowed to do cones. So it had to be scoops of ice cream. We wanted it to be whimsical and kind of cartoony, you know, so it appeals to everyone, children especially. But that changed because then we got the van involved. So then it turned into that, which is the van and the logo with the same writing, and then the ice cream freezer. So that's the new logo. I'm sure it will stay the same. It might change. Who knows?
So why can't you do cones? I don't think I realized that.
Theoretically, it falls under a different department of like we fall under the Department of Agriculture, whereas if you start scooping, you're under the Department of Restaurants. And because you're actually touching a product that could touch a product, you have to have a hand washing station with sanitizing solution. You have to have a 3-compartment sink to be able to wash the utensils. And we didn't want to retrofit the van And it's kind of nice, like, especially when you're really busy, just to reach in the freezer, pick up a cup and hand it over. That way that
so all the hard work is done before we get there, which is kind of nice. So like for a local Topia, I mean, which was just insane. I mean, we're just basically throwing out the cups. So at first, I think we were devastated that we weren't allowed to scoop or do cones, but it's actually been a really good thing, especially for retail.
Yeah, for retail, you can't do cones. So this is, we'd have to, even if we did cones, we still have to go this route for retail just to get the ice cream out there anyway. So it's kind of good that we are forced to do packaged.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I can see how that would way simplify the process for you. You can just hand it to a customer and they can start enjoying it.
Yeah.
So what are some kind of long-term goals and dreams that you might have for the business? I know it's, you're kind of in earlier stages, but.
I mean, I think for us is to continue to grow the brand, but get more effective on ways of our packaging.
I think personally for me, I'd like to have my own commercial kitchen space. At the moment, we lease a space, which is shared, which is great. But I'd like, if we keep evolving the way we're going right now, we're going to need a lot more room. So eventually, I think if we can move our operations into one single kitchen, that would speed up our processing. We can produce a lot more. We can probably hire people. So eventually down the road, I'd like to be able to employ staff, train people, and make more products and get it out there to more places. So hopefully further down the road, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, and so like what you talked about with the process, the particular machine, you can only make so much at one time. So if you're growing, that means you've got to hire more people to handle more of those machines, like individually.
Right.
Yeah, or just the stickers, because we print our own stickers, so we get someone to do that and then stick them on the cups. We do that ourselves, and all of the ordering, I could probably outsource that, and picking up groceries, even like the simplest of things. It still takes a long time to go to Largo for Restaurant Depot and Sam's Club over here, and so and so there. In between making all the product.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think about that. There's a lot, and that's what always happens. Like when you're the business owner, it's just all these little things that you kind of don't think about at first, and then other people, of course, on the outside, they have no idea that you're doing all of that.
Yeah.
It's truly a labor of love.
Yeah.
We hope we make it look very simple when we're at these events, but really,
well, when we're at the event, then the work's done. Right. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
Event.
Yeah, you're just having fun passing out ice cream.
Yeah.
So tell me, and you've kind of talked about this a little bit, but what's like that typical day look like for you?
I can tell you about today.
Yeah, there you go.
You get up at 6:30, you have a cup of coffee, and then so at that point, I either have to do one of two things. I've either got my beakers already frozen, like I mentioned, it has to freeze for 24 hours. Once they're frozen, then I can start the process of churning. So I'll put them on the machines in the kitchen, and then Alyssa will be at home doing the labeling. So once that all comes together, she can bring the cups to me at the kitchen, and then we can start scooping out of those beakers into the cups and then back into the freezer. So it all depends on what day it is. Like, for example, tomorrow we're dipping all of the Popsy creams. So that's because we're dipping them one by one by hand. It's a case of dip, and then I hand it to Alyssa. She holds it until it sets a little bit. Then we lay it down on an ice block, and then we put it in the freezer to set more. And then we take it out, and then we stick it in little bags with little labels that we print. So that's tomorrow. It's 120 of those tomorrow. So that's tomorrow's big job. But
oh my goodness.
Each day's different.
I think, for me, we have to be so forward thinking on the process, because the beakers have to be frozen solid before you're able to. And we also have to make sure that we have enough custard to be able to then freeze. And so you're just always working backwards and always working forwards. And, we realize that if we're at an event and it ends at 6, and if we ran out of ice cream at 3, that's not a celebration for us. That means that we weren't organized enough to have everything, that we need.
Yeah.
And now that we have, 3 elements, the ice cream, the Popsy creams, and the popsicles, it's just It's a game changer.
And the custard takes a long time too. So the custard is completely from scratch. And when we say custard, some people understand what it is and some people do not. And it's just a classic way of making a rich, thick ice cream. And it's only 5 ingredients. And it's egg yolks, sugar, milk, vanilla. I'm missing one. Egg yolk, sugar, milk, vanilla, cream. So you have to boil it and then cook it until the edge of it splitting. So what I mean by splitting is the eggs will curdle at 84 degrees Celsius. So you're cooking this, and I make 16 liters at a time, which is a lot. So it's almost 2 kilos of egg yolks. So you're cooking it and temping it. And as soon as that reaches 82 degrees, you got to get it off and into an ice bath so it doesn't keep cooking. Mm-hmm. And then only from there, you can start making your flavors or your packaging into the beakers. So that's also another lengthy process. So it's step by step by step. Shop, cook, freeze, churn, package, sell.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's like, okay, everybody listening, if you get their product, just, you got to feel that love behind it because it took a lot to get there.
Yes, there is a lot of love that goes into it. That's for sure.
Wow. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. I mean, you two are great, and the passion's definitely just coming through for sure. I always like to finish by kind of asking some rapid fire questions about the area, some of your favorite things. So there are no wrong answers here. So whenever you like to go out for a night out, have some fun, what are your go-to spots?
Gulfport.
Okay. Any particular places there that you frequent?
We tend to find ourselves at the bar at
O'Maddy's. It's really great live music. And then if we're really feeling fancy, then Piers.
Okay. Awesome. Good spots. All right. What's your favorite pizza in town?
We just found one.
Yes, we just found it.
It's called Gianni's, New York pizza.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
We didn't know, it's like 5 minutes away.
No idea. And I had posted something about it, like, this is the best pizza. And everyone's just like, yeah. I was like, oh, no, I don't know.
What took you so long?
I know.
Well, it's funny when I ask that question because it's like everyone's got a different answer. It's like a hot debated topic.
It also depends on what style you like too, though. You like deep dish, you like New York style, you like, Ohioan. I mean, it depends what you like. Ohioan. That's
okay.
Okay. So what do you like to do when you get that precious day off where you're not having to slave away at that ice cream?
I
don't know this word.
If you could take a day off, what would that look like?
We like riding our bikes.
I love riding my bike. We have this great little route that we do down 30th, all the way down to Coffee Pot, and then down Coffee Pot, so it reaches the pier. And then we take a big loop
on
to the Pinellas Trail all the way back. And that is like my ideal afternoon. If we can do that, I love it. I love riding my bike here.
Yeah, I think it's a bike friendly town for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, so this has been a great conversation. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Come buy some ice cream.
Yeah, come find us. We'll always be at Corey Avenue on Sundays. And then we'll be doing Madeira on Wednesdays to the end of the season, which is until May. And you can always find our ice cream at the Tides in Safety Harbor and Baked in the Berg downtown St. Pete.
Don't forget your puppy ice cream.
And puppy ice cream, our newest location now is at Puppy Nuns on the pier, downtown St. Pete, as well as Wolfgang on 4th Street.
And St. Petersburg. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So how can people find you online? What's the best way?
Instagram or Facebook, but Instagram is probably the best way. And it's just churned_ice cream. Awesome.
Well, thank you again. Like I said, you guys are super passionate and it definitely comes across. And I've had ice cream. It's amazing. So everyone else, you need to go try it if you haven't. And we just want to thank you for highlighting all these great local businesses. We really appreciate what you do. Thank you. I appreciate that. Like we talked about, St. Pete is really special. So we got to keep reminding people how special it is and keep it that way. So that's right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great day.